Story Corner, presented by Jennifer. Thoroughbred. Book 1, A Horse Called Wonder. Chapter 10. During the next week, Mrs. Griffen took Ashleigh, Caroline, and Rory to Lexington Mall to shop for school clothes. Only when Ashleigh was trying on things did she realize how much she'd grown. She was a full size bigger than she'd been last winter. She came out of the dressing room to find her mother and sister waiting. "I like that shirt," her mother said. Caroline was more critical. "Why don't you get something besides jeans? Look at this skirt I found. It would match that shirt." "I wouldn't wear it," Ashleigh said. "Jeans are more comfortable." "You could try it on," Mrs. Griffen suggested. Ashleigh was feeling tired and irritable. She hated trying on clothes. It was such a hassle, and they'd been shopping for over 3 hours. She was thirsty and getting a headache, and Caroline wasn't finished yet. "I only want the jeans and shirts. I'll take Rory for a soda. He's got all his stuff." Mrs. Griffen paid for Ashleigh's clothes, and Ashleigh took the bags and bored Rory off. "You know," Ashleigh said to Rory when they finished their sodas, "I think I saw a tack store down at the far end. Want to look around, Mare?" Yeah, Rory said. So while Caroline and Mrs. Griffen finished their shopping, Ashleigh and Rory happily looked at saddles and bridles, riding outfits, and boots. "What are you staring at, Ashleigh?" Caroline asked. The two girls were in their bedroom doing homework. Caroline was at her desk, and Ashleigh was sprawled across her bed. It was late September, and by 7, already dark. Ashleigh jerked to attention. "Huh? Oh, nothing. I was just thinking. Dad's weaning the foals tomorrow. It'll be tough for Wonder. I want to get up early so I can be there." "Then you better get to work, Ashleigh said. "You haven't written anything on that paper for the last 15 minutes. And I saw some of your math papers. There were an awful lot of D's, Ashleigh." Overall, Ashleigh hated being back in school. It had been all right the first few days, seeing everyone again and hearing about their summers, finding out who her teachers were and who would be in her classes. But she missed the farm and the time she spent with Wonder and the other horses. The only thing that made school bearable for Ashleigh was Linda. Homework was the worst, and she seemed to have so much more of it this year. She always put it off until after dinner, when it was getting too dark to be outside anyways. Ashleigh turned her head and made a face at her sister. "Mind your own business." Caroline shrugged, closed her book, and picked up a teen magazine. It's your funeral if you come home with a bad report card. Ashleigh wasn't listening. She wondered how Wonder would adjust to being taken away from Holly. The next morning, Ashleigh was out at the barn just after 5. Her father had decided to wean 6 foals at a time. The foals could adjust to their separation from their mothers more easily if they were weaned with company, but it would still be a frightening experience. Ashleigh talked soothingly to Holly and Wonder as she led them outside. But before they reached the big paddock, April walked over, took Holly's lead, and firmly led the mare away. It didn't take Holly long to realize her foal wasn't with her. She looked back over her shoulder and whinnied. April held tight to the lead and urged the mare forward, and Ashleigh quickly turned and led Wonder towards a smaller paddock. Wonder let out a cry and tried to pull away. The filly couldn't understand what was happening. Why were they taking her mother to another paddock? Ashleigh gripped the lead rope with both hands, trying to hold Wonder. The filly was as tall as Ashleigh now, and growing stronger every day, even if she hadn't caught up with the other foals yet. It was all Ashleigh could do to pull Wonder into the paddock and close the gate. It's going to be okay, Wonder. Easy, girl. Ashleigh tried her best to comfort the filly, but Wonder wasn't listening. She jerked her head, her eyes rolling in alarm. She dragged Ashleigh towards the fence nearest the mare's paddock. The other foals were whinnying in shrill and frantic chorus. They were gathered at the fence, pressing their bodies against it and trying to get through. Their cries only made Wonder more panicky. Ashleigh knew she wouldn't be able to quiet Wonder yet. She unclipped Wonder's lead and then quickly moved out of the way as the filly charged off to join the other weanlings racing up and down along the fence. Wonder had only one thing on her mind: getting to Holly. 2 of the other foals started tearing around the paddock in a panic, looking for a way out, and Ashleigh carefully stayed clear of them. They were nearly half grown now and could easily have trampled her. Ashleigh watched Wonder anxiously, understanding the filly's fear and confusion. She wanted desperately to help, but she knew the only thing she could do was wait until Wonder began to calm down on her own. The minutes seemed to drag past, but at least Wonder stopped her mad dash. She still clung to the fence, though, searching for Holly, answering Holly's calls. Ashleigh gradually moved closer to her, then gently patted the filly's neck. You'll be all right, Wonder. I'm here. No one's going to hurt you. Wonder was so upset for the first time she paid little attention to Ashleigh's gentle tones. Ashleigh persisted, talking to the filly, trying to distract her. Then, finally, Wonder began to listen. Her trust in the girl who helped raise her made a difference. She shivered nervously and snorted, but her ears flicked in Ashleigh's direction. The other foals were slowly calming down, too. They were confused and unhappy, but their cries weren't quite so frantic. They weren't rushing so madly to and fro. Several of them started playfully chasing each other around the paddock. Soon others joined in, and Wonder looked in their direction. Go on, girl, Ashleigh urged. You're going to be fine. The filly seemed uncertain. Ashleigh gave her an encouraging pat on the rump, and Wonder picked up her heels and trotted towards her companions. She looked back over her shoulder once or twice, but Ashleigh motioned her on, then watched with a proud smile as Wonder joined the play. So you're still babying that filly? Ashleigh jumped to hear Brad Townsend's voice behind her. Everyone's calling her Ashland's Wonder, I hear, he said. Ashleigh's pet is more like it. Ashleigh spun around to face him. I'm not babying her. She knows how to take care of herself. You can see how much she's grown. She's still a runt. You know, my father's not even giving her an official name yet. When the registration papers are filed, she'll be Filly, Townsend Pride / Townsend Holly. We're naming 3-foot colts Townsend Prince. Big deal. But Ashland felt the shock of his words. Not giving Wonder an official name was close to confirming that they were going to send her filly to the yearling auctions after the first of the year. But she wasn't going to take his comments without fighting back. I hear your colt isn't doing too well in his maiden races, she said innocently. Brad flushed at her point as her point hit home. So he had some bad luck. He'll come along. He'll be racing again next week at Keeneland. Maybe he'll manage to do better than 8th then. With that, Ashleigh turned her back and quickly walked off. She had gotten in the last word, but Brad's news had frightened her. Later that afternoon, when she put Wonder in her stall, she stood back and studied the filly, trying to see her as a stranger might, trying to be totally honest with herself. Brad had told her that Townsend usually sent more than half the yearlings to auction. Bill had told her that Townsend usually sent more than half the yearlings to auction. Yes, in comparison to the other foals, Wonder was small and immature. There was nothing Ashleigh could do to ignore the obvious fact that Wonder stood several inches shorter and had a lot of growing to do. But Ashleigh could see the potential in Wonder. If she were allowed time to grow, she'd be every bit as strong, as beautiful, and as graceful as the other foals her age. But Ashleigh knew that Wonder wouldn't look so great to someone looking for the best in the crop. She felt desperate as she finished feeding her. "It's not your fault, Wonder," she said. "I haven't given up yet." To keep herself from worrying, Ashleigh went over to watch the yearlings receive their first training. She'd probably see Charlie there too, and maybe he'd have some encouraging words for her. She saw him standing just inside the yearling walking ring and joined him. "Watching this will be good training for you if you're set on being an exercise rider," he said, "and you'll see what's in store for that filly of yours if she stays on the farm." Unlike the training oval, the ring was surrounded by high board fences that prevented the yearlings from being distracted by outside sights and sounds. In the center of the ring, one colt was being circled at the end of a long line attached to his halter. "That's a long line," Charlie explained. "It's the first step in training. You get the horse going in a circle around you. You start him at a walk, then work up to a trot and a canter by letting out the line. It helps smooth his gait and teaches him to start obeying hand and voice commands. When he's working out nicely, you lounge him with a bridle. Then let him get used to the saddle on his back. After that, you get him used to a rider. Usually do that in a quiet stall, though, and a little at a time. Then you bring him back out on the ring and lead him around with the rider, like you're doing over there." Ashleigh looked to where Charlie was pointing and saw a young horse and rider being led around the outside of the ring. "You never want to rush a young horse. Just go nice and easy, and you won't have any trouble with them later on. And you make sure to reward them when they've done a good job, so they're glad to do it again." Ashleigh saw Jilly approach. She was in the saddle of one of the yearlings being led to the walking ring. She smiled at Charlie and Ashleigh as she passed. When she was inside the ring, the groom moved away from her horse's head, and Jilly picked up the reins. She quietly started her mount walking around the perimeter. "That yearling's further along in training," Charlie said. "He's already learning to obey his rider's commands. Once he gets used to walking and trotting in here, they'll take him out on the track and ride him alongside a quiet, mature horse to get him used to the feel and look of the track. That'll be the end of his training this year. In the spring, when he's 2 years old, the rest of the training work starts, getting him used to the gait, starting to breeze him." "You think all these yearlings will race next year?" Ashleigh asked. "You gotta judge each horse on its own. Some horses aren't ready until they're 3. "Wonder will probably be one of those late ones." "Maybe not," Charlie said. "I've seen a lot of foals born in May who were ready to race before February and March foals. Depends on the animal. I don't believe in racing them too early anyways. Let's have a look at that filly. You said she's learning to stick up for herself, eh?" "She has. Even 3-foot's foal doesn't push her around." "I hear they're calling him Townsend Prince," Charlie said. Ashleigh snorted. "They haven't even given Wonder an official name. It makes me so mad. Brad thought it was a big joke that people are calling her Ashleigh's Wonder. He says she's still a runt." "You just have to prove him wrong and make sure she lives up to her name." They reached the weanling paddock. Ashleigh saw Wonder on the far side, grazing, and gave a sharp whistle. The filly immediately picked up her head, perked up her ears, and looked around. She saw Ashleigh by the fence and came trotting briskly towards her. She was tall enough now to easily reach her head over the fence. Ashleigh rubbed Wonder's nose, then fished in her pocket for a carrot. Charlie studied the filly with keen eyes, especially when Wonder set off to play with some of the other weanlings. He didn't say anything at first, and Ashleigh was dying to know what he thought. Finally, he nodded. Straight legs and a good thickness of bone, straight knees and cannons, and good angle to the pasterns. She's showing good muscle development in her chest and rump, and has a deep girth and a flat and fairly short back. "Oh, that's good?" Ashleigh asked. "I can see potential, but she's still too young yet to tell for sure. Good conformation isn't everything. You can get a horse that's got perfect form, but can't get out of its own way. She's a fighter, but she's still awfully small." "Mr. Townsend's not going to be impressed, you mean?" "Well, he's got some other pretty outstanding foals. You've got to remember that this is a business. No owner or trainer is going to spend a lot of time and money on a chancy foal when he's got others that look like a sure thing."